may I just say, before we begin this presentation, and as a general, something of general value to all these presentations on the monad, that bear in mind the associations of any type of monad, namely the manner of the will, the manner of the purpose, the method by which true impersonality and abstraction is achieved, how oneness, wholeness, and synthesis are achieved, because we all have to have them, and according to the ray of the monad, so will these things be achieved. This is something that all monads do. And how is identification achieved? I'm using monadic words now, and according to the ray of the monad, different methods will be used. How is freedom and liberation achieved? Because alchemically it is. And how is bliss experienced? Because it relates to the monad. See, what I'm reading out here now is all of the things that you have to do as a monad, okay? So, and then for each monad, there are different methods of doing this. So when you begin to question yourself about these really big things, identification, bliss, purpose, all of these, impersonality, abstraction, freedom, your method of achieving may be revealed to you. Not everybody finds their way there in the same manner. So that's one of the hints that we're no.
So, you know that this, when one is trying to get some, I think it called, some sense of anything, one does not know what way to take. This is absolutely something that I was just choosing then this way. And there is maybe then behind that some kind of reason, because while I was sitting there I was thinking that maybe this is revealing something about my sub-ray or my primary monadic ray. Or is that secondary ray? I really don't know about these words at the moment. What do they reveal? But who of you are thinking that you have a secondary monad? Of course, this is hypothesis. Hypothesis, yeah, but what is the word? So, Twain, Tanya, Arjo, yeah. Because I think that I have had huge experiences of this kind of pouring love that I absolutely feel that I don't have equipment to bring it forth. So it cannot be on the lower level, it has to be a higher level. And then also Christ is so important for me. Does it tell anything? Is that any reason to reason from that? But that is very fact of my life. And then when thinking about this, is that now sub-ray or secondary ray?
Either way,
yeah.
Really decide.
I am now hypothesizing that it could be maybe fourth ray. I have fourth ray somewhere. And I certainly have seventh ray. So I have been hypothesizing that I have been seventh ray soul and going to first ray soul. But then when we think about monadic level, you know those impulses which are touching you, your whole being, that you know that that is something about yourself. And for me, art, beauty is also key things. So somewhere I have to put those things, and because I am so keen on mythology, and I somehow go into things via having the symbolism, the images, and so forth. So it could be giving me now this solution for that. I could have there high up this fourth ray, and that we have been talking. And symbolism is the most of the things what talks to me. I was thinking that because we are reading also something that I would like to show you something very loving, something very touching, and let us see does it work, because this is also rehearsing to the other things what here could be shown. And can you then, Michael, this I will put, it's 100. Let us see how the sound is coming. Can you put louder? It's in my iPod. Can you turn there louder?
No, it's on as loud as it will.
Check the volume on your computer.
Okay.
Raise the volume on the
Yeah, that's
I will
loud.
put 100. Let us see now.
Thank you. You can tell the other thing you can do better than I can. I have to go back a few years now. And his mother was on drugs, narcotics,
We need volume.
August 2000.
We don't yet.
No.
You want to use the handheld mic up to her?
Yeah, but it's, well, it's not, that's.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, because it's very sweet.
What speaker?
Well, it is about something else. I stopped this,
It's not changing it.
and if we can start, if you can get Bob. But
Where's the sound
Probably a very easy thing to do. It's not meant to back
there is some kind of thing what he was turning.
We have you turned up all the way back here.
Yeah, but what is the connection between PC and you? What is the
Okay, I will not take time for that. So I can play music from iPod.
You probably need to choose the right speaker out to connect
But
with
it's
them.
true.
Isn't that so?
Oh, on her thing, you mean?
Well, let us move. Let us move forward. If we can solve that by the...
Is that Vulcan?
Your nervous system
Shattering.
will-
Yes.
Yeah, okay, well.
Well, I didn't know. I would take something else. I would now put some music, and so that we can change these a little bit to the more balanced place. No, it's very noisy. Okay. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Now so, when we talk about the second ray, in its essence, it is something which builds. We all know that. And when we think about this, that the monad could manifest really down here, the whole universe is in our hands. These are something, when we think about magical work, but truly it is in our hands. The monads, it is said that they have origin in the sun. But when it came as our origin, because you know it's the monad is eternal in one sense. So when we landed, when actually we who are here, when did we land to the sun, and then we were doing our tricks in the solar system, and how did we end here on Earth? It's really interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, we want the answer.
What did you say?
Yes, we want the answer.
Yeah, that's right, me too. Let us try to get it. But sun gives us some idea about the monad, because it is something which is shining, it's giving life, and in the end, all are returning to the sun. And when we think about the 6th degree, the Chohans, they are the ones which are starting already then the cosmic path, wherever they are then heading. And what is very interesting about our sun, it is the key behind everything which is relating to the second ray. So our system is love system. So we have permission to love, and this is our goal. And that is very, very revealing, and that is also giving us a lot when we think about the deep love. The system, second ray system, the love wisdom system, we are having now love wisdom conference, and we are talking in every turn about that. I was thinking about going into now the monad of the second ray via mythology. Because these texts are so huge, and I will leave that to Michael and Elena and you, wiser ones. I want to take this much more interesting road to myself. So you have heard about Vishnu's song. Vishnu is singing, so everything what is about Vishnu is about bringing forth the form. When we think about this, the Trinity, we can say this way: the destroyer, the one who is creating into form. And in that group, the third aspect is the activity. So it is not the creation, but when we think about another set, it is said that the third aspect is creating. He is the creator, Brahma is the creator. But when we study Venus, so via studying Venus, you can see how the second ray monads are working in the system. You can study that in astrology. There you see Vishnu, who is floating in the ocean, which is the ocean of consciousness. and he has all kinds of symbols revealing this second ray monad. Venus is the active part of Vishnu. It is said that Venus is the wife of Vishnu. When we think about us, Venus has much more developed astral body than we have on Earth. And then when you think about monad on the monadic plane, and then you think about how the Venus is playing in all of the other planes, you can reason a lot how the second ray, the second aspect of divinity is functioning. Venus is in detriment on the Buddhic plane governed by the Scorpio. But then when we go to the mental plane, then Venus is in hierarchical position because of the Capricorn. You can think about those things within yourselves. So, and what is very interesting about this iconography of Hinduism is that Brahma is growing from the navel of Vishnu. You see that he's coming out from the solar plexus of Vishnu. Brahma is floating in the lotus, as these high beings are always drawn to be, but below Vishnu. So Vishnu is with the Sesha or Vasuki, it depends on different traditions, but there is always Lakshmi who is worshipping Vishnu. So then when we think about Brahma, we have to think about mental plane, the mental activity. But what is interesting, that Brahma is actually illustrated in several ways. Sometimes he has 2 heads, 3 heads, 4 heads, and even 5 heads, and all have a different story behind that. But when we think about the most common are these 5, 4, or 3 heads, and then this resolves to 12, and he is on the lotus. So Vishnu has the rulership of the 3 lower worlds. And just quickly, I'm not going to go a lot into this sacred word, because Vishnu sings, AUM is sung forth. When we think about this great being, we can say that our solar system, or even created, there comes the sound with this one great word. And we follow now these letters. This is resolving into 3, which is AUM. And if you think about those Deva Lords, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, which are those who are actually taking the sound in, it is said that no human can be trusted to transmit the word. They are the devas who are doing that in our system at the moment. But study these secrets of the letters. Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, M. So A-U-M, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. But this Brahma is telling you that in manifestation you have to have the spirit, the plan of the spirit. So that's why we add this A there. But the secret or the body of that is Brahma, A-U-M. You see there this what is written in yellow here, A-U-M, A-U-M. And then under that comes then 7 great words, which is Brahmic words. But these 3 words belong to the, can we say, department of Vishnu. So he is singing these 3 words, 3 great words into existence. I'm skipping that, those in the words. Or shall I? Well, let us read that. 3 words committed by the solar logos to each of the 3 logoi as follows. The sacred sound A is to Shiva, he who embodies the spirit or will aspect. It is the word through which God the Father works. But then the sound U to Vishnu, God the Son. He is the form builder and provides the body which the spirit must occupy, thereby making divine incarnation possible. A is the life sound, U is the form sound. The sound M to Brahma, who in his work of energy provider links in active intelligence, spirit and form, or the self and not self. 7 great words comes then, and here are the Raja Deva Lords. 7 great words, again based on the sacred 3 sounds AUM. This produces creation or the manifestation of the 7 planes of our solar system. They are committed not to human entities, but to the 7 great Devas or Raja Lords, who are the ensouling lives of a plane. Hence, in the various initiations, their collaboration is necessary before these keywords can be committed to the initiate. So in the one sense, one time in the future, human beings are going to be ones who are guarding this work as well. Well then, there in Vishnu symbolism are those incarnations. So the second ray is behind the incarnation impulse. We have heard this many times from Bhagavad Gita. Whenever righteousness wanes and unrighteousness increases, I send myself forth for the protection of the good and for the destruction of evil and for the establishment of righteousness. I come into being age after age. And there are also several traditions. Some of them tell about 10 incarnations of Vishnu, but then there are many others which are telling about his existence. And that is about this teacher line, what we can then think about. So when we look about, is that correctly written, shield? Is that the shield? Okay, yes. So that tells about the shield, the power to shield, which is in second monad's hands. They protect. We think about the first ray. When we actually study now the second monads, it's interesting. Francis, you were telling about the destructive part of the first ray, and which is related to death. But that is also when we studied the second ray monads, which was that was for me surprising. But this shield is the shield that the second ray is building because via the love. And do you remember that one protection, what DK teaches us about the seventh field of seven
rays, something
sevenfold field of love, that you think about yourself that you are in the hub of the wheel and you radiate all of these rainbow colors, and that is the shield, and that we can see it in symbolism of Vishnu, that he has the shield as well. Then we have the sword, which is also the rod of initiation. He is the one who is the initiator. He puts forward also. When Francis was showing about Agni, Lord Agni, he has the vehicle of Aries, the ram, but Vishnu has Garuda. So this sword is one of his main tools that he functions. He also sent forth via the sword this kind of thunderbolts that we can see in the activity of Jupiter. So then we have universe, which is telling about the creative power of the second ray monad, creation, which is not only the microscopic level, but in the what is the opposite? Macrocosmic level as well. Then he has the lotus, which is one of the most common symbols, which all of these great ones, the teachers, has the lotus. It is something which is telling about how they are guarding as well the smaller ones. The human being is also symbolized by lotus. Our soul when it is in the bud and then it is opening. So Vishnu is the primordial guardian of the lotuses. Then we have the conch. How do you pronounce that? Conch. And that is the symbol of calling forth, but it is also symbolizing that how the sound is sent forth. It's the initiatory sound which is in the hand of Vishnu, and that is his rulership when these sounds are sent forth. They are related to all our incarnations. When Vishnu sent forth the sound via the conch, that is when we are ready to come into incarnation. So our monad is doing that. Then the is that correctly? Yeah, right. And the bow is about that how he is sending forth the plan long time before. Okay, these arrows are going via manvantaras. It's so long planning with this magical bow that he has. And now the Garuda. You see, Garuda is totally devoted to Vishnu. And that tells about this rulership, how Vishnu is already a being who can control the lower life, who is totally his vehicle. Our vehicles are running their own errands. Our emotional body can do something, and our physical body is doing something else. But this being, monadic being, has the control of his vehicle, which is interestingly now in the bird form. And for me, that is so that wherever we see these bird forms, it is telling something about Sirius. The Syrian line is about bird line, and when you think about Mesopotamia and these ancient myth and legends, you see these entities who has the wings, and that tells about the secrets and the mystery of the solar angels. That is my take of it. And Garuda is a bird which is the hater of Nagas. But these Nagas are the lower personalities. So the Garuda is related to the Buddhic plane. So it's like the Vishnu's vehicle, the lowest plane he goes is the Buddhic plane. Because of the Garuda, the bird. And then Garuda goes then lower. So he needs to, in some sense this is expression of Vishnu's soul. And there we see this Buddhic monadic connection. But then the Naga, which is in his Garuda's hands. And it is interesting because Vishnu does not have serpents around him, but Shiva has. Vishnu has the serpent which is coming behind him, or then he's floating in the consciousness, the ocean of consciousness with the serpent. But then the Garuda has these serpents. And then the crown. This is interesting. Do you know what this means, this feather or peacock?
It's a sign of initiatory status. I see the triad as it expresses itself through 7 different qualities. The winding center of initiation where all the rays blaze forth.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sometimes you see only one feather in him, but if you look the Eastern imagery, study this, or actually around the world, study the peacock feathers, because it's the most ancient symbolism of the teacher, initiated teacher. And this feather, because it is the peacock feather, it is very sacred bird. We have told that Moria had peacock as his bird, but in the East, these high yogis, they had the peacock birds walking in their yards, bringing about the vision, the inner vision, because there is the eye. And we talk about the vision, which for me again was a surprise related to the second ray. But this is an ancient secret of the teacher. When you get the feather in your that is that you are initiated to something. But then you have here the rainbow bridge now this way, not coming from here this way, but coming sideways from temple to temple. That is also Vishnu's, one of the marks in his crown, and I don't know what to do with this. Is there in in Antakarana building? So when we think about these connections, that when it goes this way, it's like forming the cross, but
The planes and the rays do that. They cross each other.
So anyway, that is something about the higher part of the Antakarana, which goes now beyond of our Antakarana building. So, okay, now comes the peacock feather. And actually here you see better this crown. And he has always the sun behind it. So there is then said that Vishnu and Surya, which is the sun god, are one. So we talk about that. So then blue-skinned, he is coming from this tribe of the blue skin, and I don't know, is this factual? Is that related to other system? But this is certainly about the royal sign when you are blue-skinned. It does not mean that your liver has stopped functioning. Yes?
Krishna, who is one of Vishnu's incarnations, means black or dark blue, and it's said to represent the cosmos.
That's right, yeah. Like there are all of these that Krishna, Vishnu and Shiva, all of them are drawn into the color of blue or indigo color. But then I have been thinking about that these clairvoyances who are saying that there are indigo children. So, yes?
Our logos has been referred to as our solar logos as the blue logos because it's a second-ray solar system, even though it's of the fourth order. And DK says his children will resemble him in color, speaking symbolically of color. So if we are the children of the solar logos, cells in his body, then we will resemble him.
And in the secret doctrine, there were in early days, literally blue men. This is what it talks about, you know, it divides the colors, maybe it was some kind of lunar appearance, but there were actual blue forms which have died out.
Died out, aha. Does it mean then that this kind of higher race, or the race who had higher consciousness, then they were able to have blue skin?
Maybe, I don't know.
That is a mystery, so we will see. Are we becoming more blue?
Maybe it's on the etheric level.
Yes, because about these indigo children, what they are talking about a lot, that is that then the coloring in our aura, which is taking place, is that indicating it, or is this indicating something from the past that I don't know? Well, there we see Vishnu floating in the ocean of consciousness, and then Lakshmi worshipping Vishnu. So I was thinking about this because it reveals a lot about this monadic connection via Venus. That we should look the charts, our charts, where the Venus is ruling the decanate. Is it not ruling also decanates?
Some, yes.
Yeah. To look those decanates and then all of the signs where the Venus is playing its part. So what does it reveal to us? But then when we think about these different wheels related to secondary monad, I think they are much more, are they not? I was just collecting.
Well, this is quite a few actually. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So for us, certainly will to love is something that we could reason, and also will to unify, will to unification. Do you know any people who are acting like that? Do you know?
Maybe a few in this room, perhaps.
You know, it is interesting because, you know, we have been, of course, talking with Michael, and Michael having these some insights about what might happen on the highest plane. But how Michael is acting is really acting from this impulse, will to unify.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's the second it's the second ray will nature in the solar system, along with the will to coherence. It's whole making, form building into wholes, and that's very much needed now with the emergence of the secondary soul of our planet. So all of these things are very related.
Right, and then when we think about this will to fulfillment, that there is so strong impulse about that, that trying to get things into its final stage. And this unifying, strong energy of to unify, it's really painful for all of those people when this energy is acting, when there is separation. It just this makes you to try to continuously make things work, and that might be very tiring for then other type of energies. That if somebody is all the time trying and trying
Well,
and trying.
if I can say something, it's a very Leo type of will.
Yeah.
You see Aries, the will to create. Someone mentioned the will that conquers death. This was mentioned earlier. This is the will to fulfillment. It's a Leonian type of impulse, and it means the fullness of the self must come to archetypal perfection. And that's quite a friction, if you think about it. And this is on the monadic plane. See, there's 7 great sounds sounded by Vishnu, right? And if those...
Five via Vishnu.
Okay, well, I'm
7 via
thinking
Brahma.
7 by Brahma. Well, anyway, we've got 7 circles on the monadic plane and 7 archetypes. And if they come into touch with the conditions as they exist, there's a lot of friction. And a lot, you know, and we are in the middle of that friction. We're hoping to live the archetypal life and correspond and be fulfilled. And how else are you going to be fulfilled unless you can, you know, fulfill your archetype? And so you put yourself in the way of that, and you're just not satisfied with conditions anymore. So it's all about perfect sounds, I think.
So will to save, which we can relate a lot to Pisces, will to relate to Gemini, they are really somehow surprising, I think, for me. And will to nurture, this is not surprising.
But will to save is quite what you would expect,
Potent,
I think.
that's right. But this energy is bringing to synthesis. It produces coherence, mutual attraction, establishing relationships. So, the will which brings fulfillment is the divine incentive. Impulse is not the correct term, coming from the cosmic astral plane. So when we think about this, the whole sound, that we have the cosmic Vishnu, who is sounding now on the cosmic plane. All of these planes that we see on the cosmic physical plane are just the emanations from that greater sound, even beyond. And there is already the message, or the purpose to bring into confirmation. Then, the will which brings fulfillment demonstrates through the second ray by the means of the driving force, which enables the second ray soul steadily to achieve its goal. Relentlessly pushing forward, these are all first ray words. Is that then the sub-ray?
Yeah,
Of the first
surprising.
sub-ray of the second monad.
Well, basically, it tells you the first ray type lurches forward, charges forward, spasmodically, irregularly, crashes through. That's not the way for the second ray type. Without leeway, without let up, steadily, wherever, outward and onward. So that's one of the qualities of the second ray, and the strength of it that we don't often give credit to.
No, and we don't even emphasize that, we don't talk about that. Permitting itself no let up or leeway until the desired goal is reached. Thinking about Christ and his life. If he is the first now from the earth chain who has reached so high place, so we can see that this second ray is really coming through him, and he is a great example of that. This is a different expression to the will of the first ray, which is dynamic and which crashes forward in spite of all obstacles. The latter does not require the slower methods or the steady drive. Interesting.
So if you ever feel weak as a second ray type, here is the refutation of that presumption of weakness.
Right. The will which initiates also works through the second ray and is monad. The will to initiate or to condition demonstrates in Christ's work as he inaugurates the era wherein it became possible for the kingdom of God to appear on earth. In reality, this will be a demonstration of the fusion of the two centers, humanity and the hierarchy. And now, the same thing. The will which conquers death also works through the second ray and its monad. It is also the will which conquers death because of its intense love of reality and of the persistent one who exists behind all phenomena. I have never heard before about this. How do we understand about that? This both. Are all the rays then conquering the death?
Well, it's particularly a Capricorn thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Capricorn, but it's very much related to the first ray. But, you know, love conquers death.
That's right.
That-
Are they all
They all have to do it because they are the living, it's just the method by which they do it.
right?
It's just the distinction. I think.
Right. Yeah. All of them? All the 3 or all the 7?
3.
All the 3.
Well, it's hard to say if you're a monad, basically, you have conquered the death of ignorance. That's death. You know, say the Buddhists, ignorance is the great death. Ignorance is the great sin. When you're in the unfettered enlightenment of Shambhala, you have conquered that type of death.
Right. Okay, we still continue the will aspects. The will of the second ray monad is related to the will to love. And in the old commentary, this type of will, the will to love, is spoken of in the following terms. The Transcendent One said, I am alone. I must arise and seek with ceaseless urge that which produces completion. Round out my circle whole, intensify my life, and make me truly one. And this because I recognize the two. I must have union with my other self, the self I deeply sense. Unto my heart I drew that other one, and drawing thus I gained enlightenment. I dowered with enrichments. I freely gave. I think about the sun, and that is very much about the second ray monad. So shine forth and give. The will of the second ray monad is applied steadily and without relent. It is the will to love, with a love drawn from the fiery heart of the sun. It is a will to unify all diverse entities within the field of monadic awareness and all entities. It is the will to archetypal realization, the will which draws forth the archetypal nature of any entity so that that entity may be fulfilled. And the Christ, when you think about what he said about the pain in Christ, when in his own household there is, what is it, betrayal or?
Your enemies are of your own household.
Right. When there is the deep will within that entity who just wants that everyone has their place and will be fulfilled, how painful that would be.
And you have to wait. The patience must be tremendous for the second ray monad. Now, remember, a lot of spiritual people today are coming into this. They are on the second ray.
Mm-hmm.
So, but perhaps in DK's work, maybe more the third ray, perhaps, because it's moon-chain work, you know, basically. He says, I don't come from the previous solar system like so many do, like Jesus, like Moria, like Master R, like Master Hilarion. They are first solar system types. But he and KH, I think, come from the moon chain. And I think he doesn't say he comes from the earth chain, does he? He doesn't. You know, that kind of intelligence that he has is not earth chain intelligence.
Mm-hmm. So the second ray monad achieves freedom and liberation through perfect love and perfect wisdom. Relatively perfect, of course, as well in cosmos is relative. The causal body, as strange as it may seem, is destroyed by the second aspect of the will. And I think it is about this, as I was describing, that sometimes I think that my vehicle is not big enough for that love which pours. I think it is so that this love is so huge that it just makes this causal body to explode.
That's what happens with the fourth degree. The Buddhic is a huge destroyer of the causal body because causal body cannot contain the love.
So have you had this kind of sense ever? Yeah, that there is not enough something that you could express it, and it is not even, what is that in English, that when you have a little cup and you try to, or a little back, and you try to put there, and it is just not enough. I have had those senses many times. I don't know where it is going. And so the purpose of the secondary modal is to include all entities within the sphere of its awareness and activity. All these included beings are held by the higher correspondence to Buddhi, inclusive reason, within a perfectly patterned monadic oneness. The place of each within the whole is recognized, and action are taken to promote the manifestation of archetypal relationships. And you know, this archetypal, when we think about that somewhere there is this perfect relationship, somewhere there is this perfect pattern. So, and if you think about your own life, you sometimes we get these connections. And then we see this unperfected world. What do you do? Accept it? It's pain, isn't it?
Persist.
Persist forcing, yeah.
Well, you know, naught is but me. So all global perfection is self-perfection.
I think we all know within ourselves that there is this absolutely perfect relationship and perfect life. I'm not going, this is going to be a shorter thing. I'm going to very soon finish that. Because I see you all are very tired looking. Really. The method by which the secondary monad achieves impersonality and abstraction is by standing at the center of all love and loving love with increasing intensity such that lesser loves fall away. All things are seen as within the self. That is a very good practice. To really identifying oneself. And that is the secrets behind Christ. This type of monad does not force other beings to be itself, as the first ray monad does, but recognize that they already are and invites these beings, if they are self-conscious, to recognize the same, that there are no other selves. The words of the Christ in the 17th chapter of the Gospel of St. John, verses 20 to 23, demonstrates this intimacy. This is beautiful, so just close your eyes and take his words. Neither pray I for this alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word, that they all may be one, also as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they may be one in us, that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one even as we are one, I in them, and thou in me, that they may be perfect in one, and that the world may know that thou hast sent me and hast loved me, as thou hast loved me, and hast loved them as thou hast loved me. They are really deep words one could contemplate. This full identification. That there is no difference. So it should also be said that wholeness of vision is a remarkable quality of the second ray monad. And I think about these revelations are about this quality of the second ray. It's given us ability to see. If you remember the book of the Little Prince, where he says that with the heart you see the most, or you see the best. Especially if that monad tends more to the wisdom line. The monad is that aspect of the human being which possesses a completed point of view. So Agnisurians, I just jump over it, I don't want to read about, but Agnisurians are those great devas, again about Agni line, who are are helping in this vision building when we think about the real physical eye. But how this sun is related to this whole business. All these Agni devas, they are related to the sun. Surya, the sun god, or the god of the sun, is especially God who dwells in the body of the sun and is described as the husband of dawn. He is also the guardian of the southwest quadrant. His father is the sky god Dyash or Indra. One myth tells how he arose from the eye of the world giant Purusa. So all this eye thing is related to this second ray. Surya has golden hair, golden arms. He drives in a chariot drawn by a team of 4 or 7 horses. They always tell about which planes this being have an access. So the eye of Varuna, the Surya is called the eye of Varuna. The power to see as the servant of unification. That which is the cause of vision, or the power to see. It's interestingly that it is related to the second ray. In Hindu mythology, Surya, the sun god, is called the eye of Varuna, the god of the heavens. And this, on the astral plane, the Agnisurians, they are building the really our vision. And when you think about this, Agnisurians are also found on the Buddhic plane. So we have this all-seeing eye, which is manifesting lower and lower. Agnisurians' influence in the activity of the nerve system and vision building, which is really interesting. So bear in mind that in the interplay of love, that which goes forth and that which is given back will suddenly come revelation. The wonder of Christ's mission lay in the fact that though he was one of a long continuity of perfected divine men, he had a unique function. He summed up in himself and brought to a conclusion the symbolic presentation of God's eternal sacrifice upon the fixed cross of the heavens, to which the stars bear testimony and which the history of religion has so successfully veiled and today refuses to recognize. The heavenly man is today pendant in the heavens, as he has been since the creation of the solar system. And as Christ said, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me. And this is the method of the second ray. And not all men only, but eventually all form of life in all kingdoms will render up their life, not as an imposed sacrifice, but as a willing offering to the final glory of God. He that loses his life for my sake shall find it. He that loseth his life for my sake shall find it, is a fact which is often forgotten, and one which has a definite bearing upon the story of the crucifixion and its wider implications. It is, however, through the achievement of the last of the manifesting kingdoms, the human, that the cross and his purpose is completed, and to this the death of Christ bears testimony. And now again, close your eyes. This is the meditation of the second rainbow knot. I just put another music. It's really tricky. Okay, now we hear. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I'm only a resounding gong or a clanching cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I'm nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fades, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
Thank you, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow, if we see you tomorrow. And we continue with the third ray monad and maybe a little bit about the other types. And hopefully, no, we come right here. Come right here at 9 o'clock, okay?